Hello everyone, this is a video to show you some of the commands that you can use in Revit for creating and working with roofs. I'm using 2022, but there are so many releases that do the same thing, and I'm sure will do the same thing for future Revits. Just also, as a side note, know that if you have 2022, you can open up files that are older, but if another release comes out, unless they change it, you're not going to be able to open up newer files. So if you still have 2020 or one of the older versions, you will not be able to open up a newer one. So get your updates and move forward. Okay, so let's start a brand new drawing here. Not the families, but the models. We'll pick new. And then you have a choice of all these different templates. I stick with the architectural template because it's very basic. It doesn't have a lot of different presets that are already loaded, so it makes it easier for us to load our own, and also has the settings for the architectural drawings. So I'll go ahead and pick the architectural template here and pick OK. Now what I'm going to do is keep it simple and create several small buildings so that each one can represent a different type of model. And by this point, we've already been through the interface, so you're familiar with some of the tools. I pick up my properties tab here and docket on the right hand side so that I have both the project browser and the properties as full. I know that some of the releases have them both on the left hand side and sometimes one on top of each other, or one in the front and one in the back with the tabs to switch between the two. If those do get somehow turned off, you can always right click and you'll see the check mark for properties there, and you'll see the check mark for project browser under browsers. Okay, let's get started. Very basic, generic, level 1. We'll go click on wall, and then when you click on wall, let's keep it so that the wall height is up to level 2. So we'll keep height, and then we'll change unconnected to level 2. And to also keep it simple, we're going to, in the draw panel here, click on rectangle so that we can use the generic wall 8-inch and select here a point and another point. We're just going to create several of these buildings that we can use to start to place roofs. We might even create a couple more. I'm just starting with these 4 to build on. Okay, and now to escape out of the tool of creating walls, we can either use escape key several times, or what I've been doing is clicking on the model or modify button at the top left. I think that should be called escape. I'm not sure why it's called modify, but if you click on it, it kind of takes you completely out of it. So now we don't have a 3D view in the project browser yet, so we'll go up to the top and click here on that little arrow next to the little house and pick the default 3D view. You could have also went to the view tab and got the 3D view from there too. So now we have all of our structures to work with and place our roof. We'll start with something simple. We'll go to the level 2 view because we want to create the roof at the level 2 view. Now guys, if you can't see here the level 1, because maybe you have an older release or it wasn't set up that way, over here in the properties you have Underlay. Underlay will help you to view the different levels. Although we're in level 2, you might click over to level 2 and see nothing. So under Underlay here in the properties, we want to change that from none to level 1 or level 2 or level 1 so that we can see it and then pick apply. So you can use this always to be able to see looking down or looking up a base and a top range to see all the different levels and make sure everything's all lined up. And then when you're ready to print, you just go back to none, and then you're in that one view. Okay, so now if you look at the drop down here, over next to where roof is in the architecture tab, you have all these different here functions. If you just rest your pointer on roof by footprint and you look at the menu, this might help you to get an idea of what's going on. You're creating a sketch that's got the purple lines, but the lines that have little triangles are the ones that are sloping. So if you look at the little sketch there and look at the house, the edges that have the triangles are the ones that are sloping, and that's what creates a gable roof like this. So let's go ahead and pick roof by footprint. This is kind of a basic one. You can see that in your at the top of the screen here, you can see that there's a check mark in define slope. When there's a check mark in define slope, that's the edge that you're picking that will have that little triangle, right? So we might want to change the overhang. Maybe we want to type in 1 for 1 foot. Remember, where you don't have to type in the feet because Revit is feet by default. If you wanted inches, you would have to type in inches, or let me just, as a side note, if I wanted the overhang to be 1'6", I could type in 1 space 6. See how that would be enough. See how it changed to 1'6". I'm just going to go back and type in 1, totally up to you, whatever you want to use. So we've got a 1 foot overhang, and then look over here. You should know now, because you have some color in the ribbon, that you're in the sketch mode. And you have this big red X and this green check mark. All the other tabs are grayed out. See that? Because I'm in a sketch mode. So I have to be able to be done sketching in the sketch mode in order to get back to some of the basic Revit tools. So if you look at the draw panel, these are all the different ways that we can draw the roof. But by default, the icon called Pick Walls is already established. And we're using a 12-inch roof, basic roof, a generic roof. You probably know from other videos that I like to duplicate the walls, the roofs, so that we can have different sizes. But for now, we're going to just use the generic wall and the generic roof. Okay, so now I'm ready. I'm going to go to the edge of this here roof. I'm using the wheel of my mouse to zoom up and down here by rolling it, and also holding my mouse wheel to pan. I can go to the edge here and see that little dashed line. That's my overhang. I have the check mark in define slope, so I want this one to have the little triangle. And the bottom one here, I have the hidden line there. There's my other slope. Now I'm going to take the check mark out of define slope and pick the other two sides. You see how they automatically kind of clean up. That's my basic gable end. And in fact, you can take a look over here in the properties and see that the slope is a 912. So you can always change the pitch, slope pitch, to something a little bit less steep, like a 612 or 812, whatever that might be. Okay, so now if I pick the green check mark, in this view, you're only seeing the view range is showing me what level 2 is from the bottom to the top, so it kind of cuts off the roof a little bit. So it might not show you the whole roof in this view, but if I come over here and open up the 3D view, I'll double click on it here, double click on 3D view, or if you didn't see the 3D view, you can come up here and start it there. You'll double click on it and whoops, and see that there's my roof. Now sometimes Revit will ask you if you want to extend the walls, and in this case it didn't ask me, so I want to be able to show you how to extend the wall up to any roof, as long as the roof is covering that wall. So I'm going to select the wall, and then I'm going to pick attach top base right here at the top, and then I'm going to select the roof, and there it goes. Okay, so I'm going to hold the shift key down and hold the wheel of my mouse so that I can move the mouse around to the other side and orbit. Now guys, if you don't have a wheel on the mouse, you can always come over here and use this navigation wheel, full navigation wheel, to hold your left mouse button down on orbit and orbit around. I use this when I have my laptop and I don't have a mouse. Okay, so now I'm ready. I can click on this other wall and pick attach and then pick the roof. Now guys, if I wanted to do both walls at the same time, I could have held my control key down and then pick whatever walls I needed to select more than one object. Or here's another kind of cool thing. If I wanted to select all the walls that are kind of connected, you can just rest your pointer on one wall, don't click, and then press and let go of the tab key. And what it does is it kind of reads all the other walls, and now I can click. And now that way I would have all the walls, and I'd be able to then extend all the walls up to that roof. Okay, that would be our first building. If you want to change it to hip roof instead of gable, you can, even in 3D, you can always go back to level 2, but even here in 3D, if I double click on the roof, I can click on this edge that doesn't have a triangle and go up here and put a check mark in define slope. See how it puts the triangle? I'll go over here and select this other roof edge and put a check mark in define slope. Now all 4 of them have the triangle. If I pick the green check mark and I click out in space, you can see that now I have a hip roof. Okay, now let's take a look at the basics for creating a flat roof. And we'll kind of scooch over to one of these other houses here or buildings. We want to create it on level 2, so it's best to double click on level 2 and go over to it. Here is my hip roof. Honestly, let's go ahead and change the view range so that we can see the whole roof here in my level 2. Over in properties, we can scroll down to view range and pick edit. Before we create a flat roof, we're going to go ahead and change the view range so we can see the whole roof here. What we're really doing is we're changing the top here, offset, or the top position, and it's going to also affect the cut plane. So first we'll check the change the top. Let's just think that maybe the roof might go up 30 feet. I'm just picking this number in case we have something steep here. I'm just going to type in 30. And then instead of having a cut plane of 4 feet, that's what it's doing. It's kind of like cutting it off at 4 feet. Also, I'm going to change that to 30 so that there's a top range that goes up 30 feet and the cut plane is pretty much the same, so that now we have kind of this open view. Let's go ahead and pick apply, and there it is. I'll pick OK, and now I can see my my entire roof. All right, back over here, we'll just pick one of these buildings. We're in level 2. We're going to go back to roof by footprint, and you probably are already imagining that we're not going to have a defined slope in any one of these edges because it's flat. Plus, we don't need an overhang because the roof's going to be inside the wall, so I'm going to put that back to 0. And the default for this is to pick walls, but we could either use here lines, or what we can do is pick rectangle. So let's go ahead and click on rectangle, and now we can click the inside corner here on one side and then go across to the other side and click the inside corner to create a rectangle on the inside walls. Notice there are no triangles, so we're good. I'm going to go ahead and click the modify button here at the top left to get out of that sketch. Also, since we're here, because we could change it later, but we might as well change it here. We do have a base offset from level. If we looked at this roof right now, it would be above the wall. And when we create a flat roof, it's usually down below the wall that extends up. So we want to create an offset from the level of something negative, like, I don't know, -1 or 2. I put -1 so that it drops down 1 foot. Actually, we should do 2 because -1 would just bring down the thickness of the 12-inch roof, so it would be kind of flat with the wall. So if we go -2 for the base offset level, it'll drop down below the top of the wall. Let's go ahead and pick apply, and then we'll pick the green check mark to be done with the roof. Let's go over to the 3D view and take a look. So double click on the 3D view. There it is. So now it's down 2 feet. So when you first draw it, it's going to be above the wall, and then we went down, instead of going 1 foot, which is like the thickness of the roof, we went down 2 feet, and now it's back below the roof. We can work right here in 3D. It makes it a little bit easier sometimes to work with. So your choice to go back to the floor plan level 2 or 2. Just click on your roof right here. If you can't get to the roof, which you usually can get to it, but if there's a stack of things that you're trying to get to something, you could tab through those things. So if there are a lot of things in one place, you can rest your pointer there and just press and let go of your tab key. See, there's only the roof, so that's not going to work. But I just wanted to, as a side note, let you know that if you have a stack of things and you're trying to select something, you could just rest your pointer just like we did creating or selecting all of the walls, and press and let go of the tab key to kind of cycle through all of those objects that are right there at that spot. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click on the roof. Anytime you click on something, you should take a look at the ribbon and see what changes. So we can edit the footprint. We can add here sub elements, and that's what we really want to do. So click on add or modify sub elements. So what we're doing here is we're saying that this roof has little boxes that represent the height at those points. So guys, if you wanted to create a roof that was very unique, I've used this so many times to make a roof slope up on one side. There are other tools that we're going to be looking at to do this too. But I had a unique roof that kind of curved and also was lifted. So I drew it as a curve, and then I lifted the end, and it kind of curved and lifted at the same time by using this. But for this case, we're going to, we can either add points, or we're going to pick add a split line. So if you just rest your pointer over add a split line, you can watch the little video that shows you that you can draw lines within the roof to kind of establish a slope. Now they used X's to go right to a specific lower point inside, but I'm going to also show you that you can just draw individual lines to slope the roof possibly to 2 different drains. So let's go ahead and pick add a split line, and then just right here in the middle of the roof, I'm going to click a point and pull my mouse over a random amount and click. So you're still in kind of this adding this split line while you're adding it. So instead of completely closing out of it, you can right click and pick cancel, or press your escape key to get out of drawing the split line. If for some reason you went completely out, you could still select your roof and pick modify sub elements, so that you can come back and click on this little box here for one of the endpoints of the line and type in some negative number. Maybe it's going to be -6 inches, just to bring it down a little bit. I know that this is calculated because sometimes we have roof dreams inside the columns and they're at specific slopes, but I'm showing you randomly some numbers to work with here to show you these tools. So here you can see that it starts to go down. So now if I click on this one and do the same thing, -6 inches, make sure you type in the inches, and you click in space, you can see that it's sloping down to these points. All right, so adding points or drawing a split line will help you to work with your flat roof. I'm going to go ahead and now click the modify button, and if I orbit around, I can see that, okay, now I have this flat roof that drains down to these points. All right, let's take a look at working with other roofs, like roof by extrusion. Now, roof by extrusion is really awesome, because if you click on the little arrow where the roof is and go down to roof by extrusion and just rest your pointer there, you can see that what you're really doing is you're creating a profile for one end of the roof, and it kind of extrudes along that profile. So a lot of times we have entrance canopies that are kind of curving. As long as you have an idea of the profile, you can draw the profile and have the roof extend back straight, right? Straight. Okay, so when I click on roof by extrusion, I'm going to be able to pick a working plane, or pick a plane that I want to use to kind of like draw the profile or the shape that I want to extrude. So pick a plane is by default. I'll pick OK. And maybe I want to use this face right here, the outside face, as my edge to draw. And it's going to ask you if you want to draw it on level 2. Now guys, I could have went to that view and did the same thing, but I kind of like to work in 3D sometimes. So yes, we want it at level 2. We want to be able to draw the profile on this edge. Let's go ahead and pick OK. So it doesn't look like it, but we're in the sketch mode, and whatever we draw is going to be drawn on this edge. So at this point, I have kind of free reign. Just to line it up, I'm going to extend from this corner and click. And then instead of using straight lines, I'm going to get a little curvy here and create maybe a spline. There's a spline under the draw tools. I can go back now and click a first point. I already started the line, but then I switched over to spline, so I'm back at clicking one point here, and another point. And as I kind of come along here and start to draw this, if you want to orbit around, you know, while you're drawing it, you'll see that you're drawing it at that work plane. There it is. At the end, I'm going to cancel and right click and cancel and orbit here to see that there's my side. And guys, just so you know, if you select an object before you start to orbit, you get a little more control over orbiting. See, if I didn't have that object selected and I went to go orbit, well, now it's kind of read that work plane, but it could go all over the place. So there's my profile that's set up. It could be a straight line. You go ahead and have fun with this. If you want to use straight lines and create like a kind of a zigzag here roof system, you can. Okay, if we pick the green check mark, you'll see that it extrudes, and that was actually one of the settings we could have established, but I kind of like to show you that once you place it, you can use these little arrows to extend the extrusion on either side. So now we have this profile that extended whatever I drew. There it is. And I can change the overhang by using this little grip. As long as the roof is over the top of the wall, we can extend the wall. So just like we did before, I'm going to click off of this. I'm going to rest my pointer on one of the walls and press and let go of the tab key. That should highlight all the walls, and now I can click. At this point, I'm going to click on Attach Top Base and then click on the roof. And you see if I orbit around, all of the walls extended to that roof. I'm going to click in space here. Now, maybe you want to change your profile. the great thing about working in 3D is I can double click here on that roof and there's my profile. I can start to change it in any way I want. I could even delete it and go back to using straight lines. So maybe I wanted to bring it in here a little more and up here and kind of create something a little more unique. And now I can pick the green check mark and take a look that I have something that's a little more unique. Okay, so that's roof by extrusion. You can get a lot of use out of that. There's a whole section, guys, on working with mass modeling. Mass modeling is a way of creating this kind of shell or this mass model that you can attach faces to, and one of those faces is the roof. So if you need something really unique, take a look at the video on mass modeling. It may be coming up. So you can create this kind of irregular shape and then apply a roof to it, or a wall. And there are a lot of different things that go with that if you need something even more unique. All right, so we're making our way down this roof menu. We looked at roof by footprint to create a flat roof, hip roof, and a gable roof, and roof by extrusion, and we talked about roof by face. Let's take a look at these three here. The roof soffit is going to be drawn here at the level 2. So we'll start with the fascia and the gutter. So let's go to roof fascia. It's a fascia board. That's the board at the end of the roof. So if you just rest your pointer on roof fascia, you can see where we're going. We're creating a board that's going to kind of cap off the roof. And this becomes very important to us because the roof is going to be, for design purposes, a specific type of material. So it's going to be like dimensional roof material. And so the fascia or the end becomes that material. So we want to be able to cover it and use these fascia boards to create maybe a white board that's at the end. Let's go ahead and pick roof fascia. At this point, there's a default over here, which is the flat 1x12. But as you probably saw in other videos, you can create your own profile or your own size for that, duplicate it and change the size. So at this point, we're going to click right on the top edge of the roof, and you see how it automatically puts this fascia board there. Now, because we have a 12-inch thick roof, we'd have to change the size of the roof or the thickness or the fascia board in order to cover it up completely. But here, if I click on these two edges, you can see that the fascia board covers the end of the roof, and you can go ahead and work on the other ones too, or place them. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of that. Click the modify button, and I could go into a deeper dive and show you how to change the thickness of the roof so that it works with the fascia board, or we can change the fascia board size. I think just so that you can get a little more experience with this, let's change the size of the roof thickness so that it can be covered. So because we're talking about roofs, let's go ahead and click on our basic roof generic 12-inch. And if you take a look at these different roof defaults, there is a generic 9-inch. Let's see if that works. There it goes. We won't even need to duplicate it and change the thickness of it, but that is an option too. So we just changed it to a 9-inch roof, and there it is. You can see that the fascia board is covering here at the end. Let's concentrate on roofs here. We'll go back to the roof icon and go down to gutter. The gutter itself, you can click here on the fascia board and it places the gutter. You can take a look at it. There it is. So that's a profile, guys. That's a gutter profile, which means it's also customizable. So everything in Revit can be customized to a new profile. That one's a little more of a deeper dive in customizing, and as we move forward, you will take a look at some of that. Okay, so canceling out of that, we have our fascia board. The other thing about the fascia board I do want to mention is that when you place your roof material and then you want to change your material on the fascia board, you can select the fascia board and pick edit type. When you pick edit type, now you have here the material by category to go change. Now we're changing the material in other videos, and depending on the length of this video, we might work on it. If not, take a look at one of the other videos that talks about working with material. Okay, awesome. So let's go take a look at creating that soffit. The soffit is the part, the material that's underneath the roof overhang. It kind of like blocks off this space between the end of the roof and the wall, and that's where you put, you know, the roof fence and all of that. So if we go to the level 2, guys, make sure you're in the floor plans level 2 and not the ceiling plans. I always suggest that you kind of minimize the ceiling plans so you can just stay with the floor plans here. I'm going to go to level 2, and for this one right here, we can actually see the walls because we have the underlay for looking down at that, so we know that the soffit is going to be in here. We can go to roof and down to soffit. Hey guys, we're in the sketch mode, and what we're really basically doing is creating a rectangle to represent the soffit. So we can go to rectangle here under the draw tools and basically draw a rectangle right here, and it's between the end of the roof and the wall. There it is. Now if this was a gable, we would only have the rectangle at the two sides, but if it's a hip roof, it would be then all 4. And I'm going to go ahead and paint the green check mark so that we could at least see that we're creating soffits on those 2 sides. If we go back to the 3D view and kind of go look underneath it, we can take a look at it. Okay, so when you look at it, look what I did. I created the soffit, but it's on the level 2. We need to drop it down. We need to drop it down so that it's at the level of the fascia board. We could do that while we're drawing it, but in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and click on this soffit. And here's the height offset from the level. And now I can kind of work with it and make it maybe a negative, what was that, 9 inches? 9 inches. Let's take a look what happens when I pick apply. Yeah, there it is. You see how it's tucked underneath there? So either drop it down when you're drawing it and change the height offset from level, or you come over here and take a look at creating this offset of negative 9 inches. Now because this is a hip roof, I would want to go back and create a sketch that went all the way around so that the soffit would also be at the other two sides. I just wanted to make sure that you kind of got the idea of creating a soffit and placing here the fascia board and also placing here the gutter. All right, awesome. Okay, this video is getting a little bit long, so I'm going to create a second video to show you how to create sloped glazing, a dormer, to build an addition and to tie it back to the other roof, you know, how to edit your roof and create different types of dormers. It's going to be another video that is a little bit deeper dive for the roof tools. Okay, so take a look for the second video.